Hey guys, it's Isaac. We're back here working through our series of lectures on relationships. This is going to be part two. Title for today is going to be Are You Ready for a Relationship? Before we get started, before we get too far into this, I want to give a little bit of a disclosure. Some of the things I'm going to say in this message might not sit well with you. I know they didn't when I was really struggling with addiction. And that's because I wanted to live how I wanted to live. This isn't going to be a debate. This is going to be truth. This is going to be what I've learned in the Bible, and that's why I give these classes, guys. I don't give them to push my own agenda. I don't give them to take away fun or anything other than that. I'm going to assume that you are a Christian and that you believe the Bible, that you believe it's the inspired Word of God, and that you want to follow what it says. That has to be our starting point here. If it's not, some of these things I'm going to say are really going to upset you, and it's going to be hard to accept. With that said, the title of today's lecture, Are You Ready for a Relationship? So to answer that question, we need to understand the purpose of a relationship. Dating relationships in particular have one purpose. That purpose is to find a spouse. Otherwise, there is no other purpose for dating. Dating relationships are not for sex. They're not for fun. They're not for fulfillment or pleasure. You date so you can find a spouse. And that's going to answer the first part of our question. Are you ready for a relationship? If you are not ready to commit to being married, guys, I have to tell you, you are not ready for a relationship. And that's the reality of it, guys. You date so you can find a spouse. Dating isn't for sex, isn't for fulfillment, guys. It's to find a spouse. That's the hard truth of it, and sometimes that's hard to accept, but that's truth. If you don't walk in that, if you don't walk in a dating relationship knowing that I am doing this so I can find a spouse, so I can see if this person that I'm pursuing would be a compatible spouse, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting their time, and you're going to end up getting hurt, or you're going to hurt them. I know because I've been there. And a relationship that is started outside of the pursuit of marriage always leads to pain. And I know that's contrary to the culture we live in. We live in a culture that says dating is for fun, dating is for enjoyment and pleasure and testing the waters. And I disagree. I believe the Bible disagrees. The purpose of a marriage is to fulfill a hole in your heart of companionship. In the very first pages of the Bible, God institutes what we call as marriage. He makes Adam, puts him in the garden, and Adam is lonely. And God says, it is not good that man be alone. And from that experience, God makes Eve and makes him his wife. So God takes the one man and he makes the human, the woman out of the man. So he makes two. So he started with one, he makes two, and then brings them back into one. That's why he says two will become one flesh. And that's what a marriage is. It's two people becoming one. So when we date, when we think about dating, and that is not our goal, to become one or see if you should become one or try to become one with this person, you're going to walk towards disappointment. You're going to walk towards pain. Look back at your life. Have you been in relationships where that wasn't the goal? How did it work out? How did it end? I promise you, it's not a coincidence. These things will continue to repeat until we're ready to follow God, to do things His way. In essence, marriage is about companionship. It's about not being alone. Marriage is a commitment to each other, utter commitment. So we talked about how God made two people into one. That only happens when both people are committed, when both people give up themselves for the betterment of someone else. And that a relationship that is not grounded in that started with different priorities, really goes against the grain of what you were created for, what humanity was created for. We're not built to have ultimate pleasure all the time. We're not built to find ultimate satisfaction in a spouse, in a job, in enough money. You're not going to find it, guys. That's why there's struggle. That's why life is hard. You are not meant to find what you're looking for in this life, because what you're looking for is ultimately Jesus. Jesus is the only one who can fulfill that hole in your hearts. I promise you. Okay, so that being said, marriage is commitment. Knowing that dating is going to lead to marriage. That's going to answer our next part. Are you ready for a relationship? Are you ready for commitment? Commitment is giving everything you have to someone else, giving your emotional energy, giving your attention, giving up your desires, giving up your dreams, giving up your life for someone else, because that's what you want in your spouse. You want them to give up their life for you. You want companionship, you want partnership, you want love, you want connection. And that only happens when both people are sacrificing for each other. So if you're not ready for commitment, you're not ready for a relationship. Changing gears a little bit here. When this comes to sobriety, your walk in sobriety, we have to ask a couple deeper questions to find out if you're ready for a relationship. Number one question: are you a proven and tested example of sobriety? All of us are here because we struggle with something. We struggle with some form of addiction. Overcoming addiction is going to be your first step in anything. Before a job, before a relationship, before anything. Number one, you have to be sober. A couple things to consider. What is a proven example and tested example of someone who is sober? Number one being time. I know a month of sobriety feels like a huge win, and it is. Don't let anyone discredit that. 1 month clean, huge. For some guys, that's the longest they've been clean for 40 years. That's not even kidding, guys. A month is huge. But in the grand scheme of things, a month is not very much. At Retrograde, we have a rule that you can't enter a relationship within your first year in the program. We do that because once you get a year in, that is really an example of some really sober time. It means that you have been able to resist by yourself with your own issues, with your own stuff for a year. 1 year still isn't that long, but it's a really good start. That's why we have that rule: no relationships for a year. We want you to be an example of sobriety before you are ready for a relationship. Because if you're not sober, you can't be in a relationship. It's going to fail, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to hurt someone else. So number 2, relapses. So look back in your walk of sobriety, whether that's here at Retrograde or other programs, whatever that is. Look at how many relapses you've had. Look at the reason behind those relapses. What caused it? Why did you want to do it? I think a lot of guys hide the fact that relationships are hard, and 2 people in a relationship starts out usually pretty good, but then soon enough you're going to have problems. And gosh, there are so many walks of sobriety that fall apart because of problems. Guys get so committed and then they get hurt or they get trampled on and throw away their sobriety. Look back on your walk of sobriety and ask yourself, what has made me relapse in the past? If it has been a relationship, if it has been a problem with the opposite sex or whatever, question yourself. Are you ready to face that temptation if you get into a relationship and get hurt? Guys, I pray that you never get hurt ever again in any relationship. But the reality of it is stuff happens. It happens to me. And you're going to face adversity. Look back on your relapses and ask yourself, am I ready? Overcoming challenges. So, part of sobriety means dealing with temptation. It means dealing with triggers and being able to overcome them. It's easy to be sober when it's easy to be sober. When it's easy to be sober, I don't call that sobriety. Sobriety is when everything in you wants to use, but you choose to say no. That's when you know you're sober. If there is no temptation, there is no problem. And if there is no problem, you are not an alcoholic. You are not an addict. When you face temptation and resist, you're sober. How many challenges have you overcame? Real challenges. How many times have you been insulted? How many times has someone wasted your time? How many times have you lost a family member? How many times has someone cheated on you and you stayed sober? Those are the challenges that are going to come your way. I cannot sugarcoat it, guys. Adversity is coming. If it wasn't, I wouldn't tell you about it. You're going to struggle. Things are going to happen. And it's your responsibility to overcome and to stay sober while you overcome. Otherwise, you're not sober. Without challenge, there is no need for sobriety. You are sober when you stay sober when you don't want to. Next thing, number 4, mindset. Being a proven example of a successful recovery is having a good mindset. So when you walk through sobriety, you get a year under your belt, you've been through some things, you've seen some things, you've felt some things, and you've stayed strong. There's 2 things that can happen. Number 1, you get comfortable and you say to yourself, see, I got this covered. I don't even have to go to group anymore. I don't have to read the Bible. I don't even have to go to church. I've said no for this long. I've been through this many things. I don't need this anymore. That's a dangerous, dangerous place, because that's where you will be deceived. That's where temptation will come for you. Temptation that looks like you can have just one. It's just one drink. It's just one joint. It's just one party. It's just one time. Boom, you're done. Every relapse I've ever had started with just one. That's real. In fact, my entire walk with drugs, alcohol, whatever, started with one time. One time is the beginning of a path. That mindset is dangerous. When you're comfortable, it's dangerous. Having the right mindset, knowing that you're ready for a relationship, is keeping the mindset that I have to be 100% pedal to the metal 110% of the time. You have to eat, sleep, and breathe sobriety. And you have to be proud of being sober. You have to be proud of going to church and following Jesus and knowing that he died for you, knowing that he gave his life to save you from your sin, guys. Breathe it. Wake up every morning knowing that. Because when you forget, when you move on from that love, when you move on from that grace, you're setting yourself up for failure. Do you wake up with that mindset? Right now, even considering a relationship, is that how you wake up in the morning? Knowing that I'm going to wake up and follow Jesus. I'm going to wake up knowing that he gave me everything. And because he gave me everything, I'm going to do everything to give him my life back. Because he gave me his. He gave you his life. If you don't have that mindset, number one, I'm worried about your sobriety. I'm worried about the decisions you're going to make. You have to remember. And number two, if you don't have that mindset, you're not ready for a relationship. Okay, and number two, as addicts, what we have to ask, is a relationship going to help or hinder my ability to stay sober? A relationship is a commitment. A dating relationship, seeking a spouse, is still a commitment. Commitment means sacrifice. For instance, let's say you get in a relationship, right? And you've been sober for a while. You wake up, you eat, sleep, and breathe Jesus, and you have your act together, and you're ready, and you start this relationship, and you're ready to commit yourself to another person. That person, say they come to you one day, and they want to go out to eat instead of going to your weekly AA. They want to sleep in instead of going to church on Sunday. Number one, you have to question if those things are okay to miss. But number two, in a relationship, it's your responsibility to sacrifice for the other person. Guys, I have 3 kids at home. I don't get to go to AA meetings. I wish I could sleep in and not go to church. In a relationship, you have to sacrifice. And sacrifice means it will take away from your walk in sobriety. You're going to miss meetings. You're going to not have the friendships that you have right now. Can you do that? If you had to give up everything that is helping you stay sober right now, could you do that and stay sober? That's the question. And that's what it takes to be in a relationship. If you're not ready to be self-sufficient in your sobriety, if you were all alone and you wouldn't stay sober, you're not ready for a relationship. because you have to be able to sustain yourself before you can give yourself to another person, before you can commit yourself to another person. If you commit yourself to another person and you're not ready, it's going to lead to pain. It's going to hurt. You have to sustain yourself, and you have to know, if I don't have the help, if I have to sacrifice and give up my help, will I stay sober? That's what you have to be ready for. I hope that no relationship you are ever in ever comes to the point of you not having help with sobriety. I need help with sobriety. All of us need help with sobriety. But I will not lie to you, I make sacrifices for my family, for my wife, that contradict my walk of sobriety. If I have to choose between an AA meeting and a dinner with my wife, I am choosing a dinner with my wife. Will I stay sober if I choose that dinner? If you can't say yes, guys, you're not ready. Eventually you will be ready. It's really hard to ask yourself hard questions, to come to hard truth and be honest with yourself. If you're honest and some of these things still stick out to you, I don't care whether you're a year into sobriety, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I do not care. If you're not ready, you're not ready. One of the fastest ways down into a relapse is a relationship that goes south. I do not want that for you. Guys, I see it so much. This class, the series of lectures, are specifically meant for you to help make decisions, to help you make good decisions that are going to help you stay sober. If I do not say these things, I am not helping you. I care. I want you to thrive. And that means I have to share truth, even if you might disagree with it. I care. That means I say it. I also say there is hope. If you want to be in a relationship right now, that's a good thing. You want companionship. That's a good thing. God says it is not good that man be alone. You're right in your desires. It's right to pursue relationship, but not until God brings us to the point of readiness. He is shaping you right now for who he's going to make you. Who he's going to make you is the right person for that relationship. That means you have to listen to him right now. That means you don't jump the gun. It means you focus. You focus on him. You focus on growth. You focus on sobriety. And all of these choices influence sobriety. All of these choices influence your relationship with Jesus. He is speaking to you. He wants what's best for you. He cares. That's why I speak. He cares for me, and I know he cares for you. Make the hard choice if necessary. Always question yourself when you think you're ready. Talk to your counselor. Talk to me. Talk to Jesus. Please listen when he speaks. Accept a yes when he gives it, and go after it with everything you got. And accept a no when he says no. And go after that with the same aggression, the same passion, with everything you have. Because ultimately, Jesus is the one who gave us everything he has. to set us free, to bring us to sobriety, to exchange his life for yours. And he went to the cross for you. And because he did, you can embrace, you can accept whatever answer he gives, and you can choose to keep growing, keep pursuing, because he will shape you into the man he wants you to be. And then he will give you the relationship he wants you to have. Okay, guys, thanks so much. That is going to be part 2. I know there's a ton of questions, there's a ton of things unanswered. Hopefully I get to all of them in the next part. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time. God bless.